Beardy and the Beast Media Club.
Ba-da-ba, ba-da-ba. This is a placeholder intro song.
Welcome everybody to the Beardy and the Beast Summer of Sequels. In this series, we will be revisiting the worlds already explored by watching the sequels to the films previously discussed. Today we'll be having a full spoiler conversation regarding 2018's Sicario, Day of the Soldado. We won't fail to smuggle those spoilers across your mental borders. If you have not yet listened to the discussion of the original film Sicario, please consider checking it out. A full list of services we're available on can be found at beardyandthebeast.com, and feel free to join the discussion in the comments or at our Discord. My name is Drew, and joining us on this mission is Benicio Dev Toro.
I like that one. Oh.
So, Dev, was this film DEAD on arrival, or was it the Bureau of AT frickin' amazing?
How much work did you put into that one, just out of curiosity?
Oh, it's a callback to the original.
Oh, was that?
Yeah.
All right. I need to I should have listened to our original before we recorded this, but I didn't. Much like I didn't with Die Hard.
I can save you the watch. No, I'm not going to, because I want anyone who hasn't watched it to go and watch or listen to it.
Yeah, we got to get those numbers up. So I have a strong feeling that this will be the second best of the sequels we watch, because of course our final one, as Drew tells me, is the best sequel ever.
The best sequel of all time.
Of all time, apparently. I'm still a bit mixed about it overall. I don't think it quite hit what we feared it would, but I think it was walking the line of some of our fears when we found out about the sequel.
My perspective, and one of the things I want to talk about later, and it's about the point of view, and like the what was her name in the first one?
Kate.
I'm having it from her point of view. That's like a big topic I'd like to broach later. I am actually very positive about this film. I would even say I liked it. Comparatively speaking, it fell short in a couple ways. In the primary way that I think it fell short was it actually had the tenseness. Maybe not as finely crafted as the first one. The problem with it, though, was the content behind the tenseness. I'm not saying it felt artificial. I'm just saying it didn't feel quite linear or natural to the story.
Yes. So I think, so again, there's kind of two ways to look at this. I think looking at this film in isolation, it is probably, in that top tier of films that I've seen.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, this is a sequel to, one of probably my top 5 films. It weighs on your decisions around your judgments about the film. So the tension actually is something that I noticed as well. It felt to me like it's not that the scenes weren't tense, but instead of just letting them be tense as to this film, they kept trying to make it feel like that border crossing scene in the first one. To the point that I think they had 3 border crossing scenes in this one. And they all tried to do the kind of that same thing. It's kind of like, it's not quite working as well as you think it is. But I mean, it's definitely higher than, Die Hard's. Well, they tried. They succeeded. I just don't think they succeeded near as well as Sicario did.
Yeah. If I were to throw an observation right out the gate, the quality of this is that of a sequel, of a good movie that actually worked. So it's a good movie, not as good as the first, and you have to watch it in comparison. Yeah, the tenseness for me was too static, I think. And that's what kind of made it feel not as natural as it should have been. In the first one, it was a constant rise. And when it did a tension release, it would never reset back to zero. It would only drop a little, and then it would start slowly rising again.
And it was, I think it's very important to point out that it was always a quick
Mm-hmm.
release of the tension. It was never a 15-minute scene. It was, and here's the 30 seconds that snaps,
Mm-hmm.
which is really unique in films. I mean, I know you said you kind of wanted to touch on it later, and I'm sure we will. I think this is where Kate's perspective does make a big difference in that, because we had someone that we're explaining these plans to. That border crossing scene, okay, we know exactly what's going on. We know exactly how tense it could be, you know, what the threats are, what they're looking out for, where the biggest issue was. And, you know, we see that build up in those, you know, glances. Is this something? Is it not?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas this one here, when they did a similar type scene like kidnapping of Isabella, it was, we never had any of that planning. We never knew what could really go wrong. They just did it with like a military precision. Well, yes, it could have been tense because we still know.
Well, the reason why that the perspective works here and why Kate was so integral to the first film, like indispensable, was, I guess the best way to put it is, I kept having a feeling during this movie that they were holding back something from me.
Mm-hmm.
That there was something in the story that they weren't telling me and that they were going to reveal, which they never did. Now, from Kate's perspective, by withholding information from Kate, not necessarily explaining it, but by withholding it, they were able to elevate the tenseness and create an air of mystery, which was far more gripping.
Yes.
Made it feel far more thriller to this one's far closer to an action drama.
Yeah. Again, it's not that it was bad. So apparently they did originally want to try to have Kate's character back in, but they couldn't find a way to do it.
Yeah, they wouldn't have been able to with this story.
Yeah. And apparently I did see something about this is the second in a possible planned trilogy. That could kind of be why we're feeling like there's something missing. But at the same time, I feel like they went almost too much in a few cases.
Mm-hmm.
The first one, a big part of the tension and such, and as well as knowing that, especially with Kate's perspective, we know it looks like we're doing the right thing. You know, we have to play in the shadows, right? Where there's a lot of that gray morality.
Mm-hmm.
This one, it almost felt too on the nose. Oh yeah, look, shadowy government doing shadowy government things. Oh no, it went bad. We better hide this up and burn everything around it. It's like almost a little too on the nose in that regards. It bothered me a little bit.
They could have, I think they should have worked more with Isabella's character, creating a pseudo outlet for that withholding of information I was mentioning.
Mm-hmm.
Not in full, not a replacement for Kate, but so you could revisit some of those feelings from the first one.
Yeah.
Like an emotional callback, I guess you can say.
Yeah.
But I mean, the problem with Isabella is this entire movie could have been avoided if, when the original raid on that car was occurring, if she just yelled out the windows, "Swiper, no swiping."
I mean, obviously.
It's not a racist thing. She played Dora the Explorer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hola, soy Dora. But sorry, I totally lost track what I was thinking of because I
don't think they could have used Isabella the same way as Kate, and I don't think her character could have been used as a good proxy. As I almost got a feeling like they were tried to do that a little bit, but this is her world.
Mm-hmm.
So, and you see that with her. It's like you could tell immediately she knew that this isn't what it appeared to be.
Mm-hmm.
And called them out on it like pretty much right from the get-go.
Yeah, you're right.
So, which I kind of liked. It was interesting to do This is kind of where I ran into some of the oddities, though. It's like, why does it seem like everyone's trying to kill her instead of trying to, help her in any way, shape, or form? Like that was something that seemed odd. It's like there's got to be some of her father's men actually find her, and they never ran into any one of them.
I mean, that was a structural issue with the entire film because
Yeah.
the whole concept of starting a war between cartels was actually a good idea.
Mhm.
And sure, it might go awry, but they made it instantly go awry. And in a way
Yeah.
that, like, you're exactly right with the fault there. Why were these guys attacking this caravan? Because the Reyes cartel isn't going to take the chance to harm the daughter of Reyes. And they made it quite clear that the opposing cartel knows it would be a problem, big
Yeah.
problem, if they went and they hurt her. So
Yeah.
like that was one of the primary plot shifts in it, right?
Yeah.
So that ambush scene definitely does feel out of place.
Well, it's not even the ambush scene. So the ambush scene feels out of place, and then the one car she flags down when she runs away from the ambush. Which again, you're in the armored vehicle. You're probably in the safest place. Let's hop out.
Mm-hmm.
That seemed smart. I thought she was smarter than that. It kind of annoyed me. And so you had that. Then the one car she flags down is like the guy did not seem like a very good dude who found her and like instantly recognized her from the side of the road. I'm kind of like, this seems a bit odd. But then
Well, I
like the
mean,
people trafficking didn't recognize her, and it's like, okay.
well, it was the same. Well, it was the same guy from the ambush, though.
Was he in the ambush? The guy in the truck?
Yeah, yeah. So they after the ambush, there was a guy who had a RPG, an empty
Oh,
RPG, and he
okay.
dropped it on him and got in the truck. It was the same guy.
Okay.
But it's a weird happenstance to come across. Like it's very
Yeah.
coincidental.
Yeah. Yeah, that all felt odd. The first film, like the opening scene with Kate, um, raiding that one, the house,
Mm-hmm.
like it tied into the film very obviously. Like it's the whole motivation. It shows us why we're doing these shady things to to stop the drugs and all that. Like it set it up very well.
Yeah.
This one didn't. It's like, don't understand why starting the film off in several ways with tourist season and it never comes up.
See, I thought the way that they were going to go and the way that it was going to be all related was actually going to be more domestic.
Mm-hmm.
So the one of the reasons why I thought information was being held from us is I thought we are going to find out that there was links to like a staged tourist event from someone within the US government.
Mm-hmm.
And like it was going to start by trying to antag like this whole roundabout thing of intrigue, which would have made sense with that opening scene.
Yeah.
Um, and then followed into the house invasion slash rescuing Isabella. It's like this is a manufactured event for an outcome, and that could have been the recurring theme.
That's kind of what I thought was going to happen too. It was, it just felt like mixed messages. Like, okay, so we have tourists being what you would expect from the tourists were exactly what you would expect to see in the general explosive fashion.
Yes, well,
Uh,
just like stereotype to a T
yeah,
to give an impression, right?
but that doesn't really tie with. Like, I mean, it loosely ties to border crossings, but
Mm-hmm.
not exactly. Like, it's not something I think of as like, yes, this is the problem with the Mexico border crossings. Like, yes, this might be an outlet for tourists to come visit, but it's not something that in my mind ties, and I don't think they did anything narratively to tie it.
Exactly.
And if anything, it goes like, oh yeah, by the way, we found out these tourists were actually from like Missouri or something. I can't remember where they said.
New Jersey.
Was it Jersey? It's
Yeah.
always Jersey. uh
You could tell from the spray tan.
it took away from that cohesiveness. It's like
Mm-hmm.
I get your messages straight. It's like you could have had a plot there, especially considering you started off visiting the Middle East. they had, it's like they were set up for it properly and then turned it back to Mexico.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. Like, I think it should have ended up being corrupt government officials.
Yes.
Unfortunately, down to like do what you have to do for the final outcome. Kind of like was it Amanda Walker's style character?
Yeah.
Catherine. Her actual name is Cynthia. Oh no, her actual name is Catherine. Her name in the film was
Cynthia.
Cynthia. So, like, I think she should have been the one moving the chess pieces.
Mm-hmm. That would have made sense. It's not like this was tied to the government. Well, I mean, sorry. I don't even understand how this got tied to the government, except for the fact, all of a sudden they didn't have the resources to do anything except with a small team in the first movie. I have the resources to go buy 2 Black Hawks.
Yeah.
And still work off of the military base. Like, in theory, this should have been set up in a way that it made these characters look a lot dumber than they were, but in a very, I guess, non-obvious way, because they weren't dumb. It's just, again, comparing it to the first one, it raises a lot more questions than it ever would if this was a stand.
Well, and that's my big thing, and I think you identifying the ambush as a point of contention. Graver's character is supposed to be the type of character who pushes events to remove regimes. The fact that he wasn't able to see the same problems with the ambush that we were is very strange to me. Like, why that occurred. Like, I know it was probably just an oversight in the writing, or they just needed something to split up the team, an event to do that. But that ambush would make total sense if they were trying to create an incident where U.S. military people engaged Mexican police as political or corrupt stratagem, right? Like, it would make sense in that context, but only that context.
So, you saying that this is definitely a complete headcanon thing, not supported by the film at all, and me theory crafting a possible thing for a third film, which
is it that Matt created Del Toro's character, Alejandro?
Well, it was going to be that Graver is destabilizing a regime.
Okay.
Just not the regime that they painted it out to be.
Okay.
I do not think that is supported by his character in any way, shape, or form. The only thing that I could see them having that as a proper plot point in a third film, based off of how this one ended, but I don't think that was his motivation. And this is strictly coming from his reaction to what to do about Alejandro and Isabel at the very end, at the end of the film. His response there is like, okay, well, now I know what I'm going to overthrow. So again, as I don't think it's supported as a motivation for this.
I do. Yeah, I like it. I like it. I'm surprised Alejandro didn't recognize what Matt was trying to say on the comms. Like, it was quite clear to me that Matt was saying, they're burning you. Like, do not do the thing. Do not enable the transmitter, etc.
Yeah.
My theory for the third film is we're gonna find out, and it's from the one line. Do you know what it took me to make him? I think we're gonna find out that Del Toro finally gets his final revenge or whatever, because I think he took out the guy who did it in the first film, but not the guy who ordered it, I think.
Yeah, that felt weird to me.
Yeah, it felt out of place, but
because like I remember going, it's like, I'm pretty sure he got his revenge, but I think they added this new layer on to give him motivation that I don't think they need it, but okay.
Yeah. Alejandro's gonna find out that Matt Graver's the one who manipulated events and then put him as a prosecutor in harm's way. And because Alejandro has a single motivation as a character, it's just how they wrote him. It'll be a case of Alejandro hunting Matt. And I think they'll miswrite Matt too. They'll make him seem far more antagonistic than he is.
Yeah.
Or sorry, far more an antagonist, not far more antagonistic.
Yeah. Yeah, I could see Graver making him, but not like targeting him. That makes sense. It wasn't intentional, but he's taking what he's done and moving that forward, using that as its own piece.
Yeah.
I mean, there's clearly a history between them. We knew that in the first film. You see that a little bit more in this.
Well, that's another reason why it bugged me that Alejandro didn't get that he was being burned.
I read it slightly differently. I think he got it, but and this is out of character for him, just not in the way that I think you're saying it is. He didn't care about the being burned. He cared about saving the girl. And where I'm saying this is out of character is I don't see him caring to save a girl that much. Like, I mean, he kind of did with Kate, or I remember us discussing that, but it was very, very much because Kate had shown if she could get past her morals, she could be in that same league as these guys, but chose not to, and that's why she got spared. But he would have pulled the trigger on her in a second. And I don't buy the, but I had a daughter.
Yeah.
Reason for him not doing this.
It was forced. It was forced.
Yeah. And that's how I read the whole activating the transmitter and trying to get her back across the border came from.
Well, I mean, in the other perspective, like we definitely know that there is a history here. Given that you can make an assumption that he has an idea about how Matt's going to move.
Yeah.
That in the long run, Matt won't pull the trigger on this little girl.
Yeah. Yeah, that's kind of where I was thinking that would go as well. Because Matt, like, yes, he can pull the trigger. It doesn't always seem like it's going to be his first choice necessarily. Doesn't need to burn. So I think that's how I read the whole transmitter thing. That's why he gave it to her, right? Okay, burned. That's fine. You can do this. He'll find you. He'll do the right thing.
Yep. I mean, I agree with it being plausible.
Yeah. Like I said, I saw it more out of character because I don't think that's Alejandro's character.
Well, that being said, up until the end of the first movie, sure. But we did see him get a release of sorts, or at least partial revenge, which, I mean, they did take away from it, as you mentioned, by just adding, there's double revenge.
Yeah.
But I could see him gaining some care through that final adventure, interacting with Kate, and getting a form of revenge. Not to make him soft, per se, but to allow him to reattach himself with his humanity.
I could see that, but I would...
It's all theory crafting. Like...
Yeah, I think for that theory to work better, we'd need to see more... If there's more development between the two of them. I think I could see that. It's like I agree. I think Kate's effect on him does allow him to form attachments again, but he's not going to form attachments after a day of a fake kidnapping.
Yeah. I hate time frames so much. Yeah. They've ruined like most films. It's like, you realize that this was just like 4 hours. Like, why is he jumping in front of a bullet for her?
I've got other issues with the time frame. I'll get to that. That's a put a pin in it for the moment type thing. It's his reaction to Isabella made me think, it's like, do you have a niece that we didn't know about?
Like, are they somehow related or something?
Yeah. It was such a jump in what we saw of his character that I had to jump to that type of conclusion. Even to go again, there was nothing founded in the film for it.
Well, I mean, at the end of the first movie, he just straight up kills 2 kids.
Yeah.
I mean, he was nice. I think he did the youngest first and then the oldest. And then went for the parents. Like, in that act of intense violence, that's probably the most humane way to do the violence.
Yeah. But I mean, that's the perfect thing that shows this is why he would not care about this girl,
Mhm.
especially if she's the daughter of the person he wants revenge on, because we kind of know how he deals with that.
Yeah. Kind of bring in a thing about the tenseness and the way that they revealed things in the first one, made things shocking but understandable.
Mm-hmm.
I had this feeling when they shot Alejandro that, like, for the sake of the story, I hope he's actually dead.
Oh, I very much had that. So, do we want to remove this pin now? Yeah, let's remove this pin now then. I hate the end of this film. It
Yeah.
was a terrible train wreck and should have never happened. The film would have been a lot stronger if they stopped it right after they shot Alejandro. So Alejandro takes a bullet to the head, somehow survives, clearly hours later, because it was very dark and now it looks like it's noon,
Yeah.
with helicopters that were a couple of minutes away from the tracker, which somehow doesn't catch up to the trucks until noon, when they were only a couple minutes away when Alejandro gets killed.
I didn't notice that at all.
For Alejandro while they're kind of going down these trucks, they can clearly pinpoint everyone here, to the point of knowing exactly what seat they're in, but don't notice the guy jump off the truck to start walking for no good reason whatsoever, and somehow make it back across the border and live a year and get all gang tattooed up. Alejandro gets up after being shot in the head because he got lucky and just got shot through the cheek, with a bunch of people around making sure he wants to be dead but not confirming the kill, for him to then go and find the guy who shot him through the cheek, because apparently he's that bad of an aim, to go, hey, so you want to be a hitman? Let's talk.
Okay. You are right. You are right. But you can make an assumption of a tighter time frame that still doesn't make sense. It's possible that it could have been just after the completion of sunrise, but the time frame still doesn't make sense because it went from pitch black to sunrise completed.
Yeah.
And sunrise is what, a 7-minute thing?
Yeah, something like that.
So even at the smallest of time frames, like we're 5 minutes out or whatever, still doesn't make sense for it to go from pitch black because it gets lighter before sunrise to sunrise occurring. You're looking at least an hour and a half, 2 hours. IMO.
Yeah. It's not just them saying, hey, we're only a few minutes away from this tracker. It's them literally saying, oh, good, we've seen him get killed, because they're that close. And go, okay, well, at least we don't have to worry about taking care of Alejandro ourselves.
Yeah, why were they a few minutes out? They were like flying above.
Yeah. So the ending really triggered me if you didn't.
Oh, I guess they weren't flying above. They did have like the satellite cameras or whatever.
Yeah.
The being out could still be a valid thing, but just like the time frames are garbage. The ending of this film as it is would have been far better if Alejandro had died, if Isabel
it's hard to tell because it's Isabella and Isabel. I'm not sure.
Oh,
Isabella
Isabel
is her real name.
Yeah.
Isabel is the name of the character. Thanks for making it confusing for us.
Wait, does she do music or something? Is it a case of one of those, like, everything she's in, because she was Lizzie in Instant Family, Isabella with a Z in Transformers. She was Soy Dora in Dora the Explorer, and Isabel Reyes.
I do see a lot of music videos on her IMDb. Yes, I think so.
Well, that would make sense then, because like as a music star getting into acting, you generally like brand up like that. It's like you expect Alia in any movie Alia is in, Rip Alia, to have been named Alia in those films. I don't think she was.
I think that's
No, her name was Trish O'Day.
That is one of those things that I could see as being a trope, but I actually can't think of many examples I've seen it. But I think that's because a lot of our pop stars nowadays are, we're from Disney, and that's how they became pop stars.
Oh yeah, so like she was Britney in the thing she was doing, and then Yeah, I guess
Right.
like it's a Disney thing for sure. Because
Yeah,
isn't Victoria Justice's real name actually Victoria Justice?
I think so. But I mean, you don't get that with like Miley Cyrus, Hilary Duff, Lindsay Lohan. Like they didn't have quite the same thing. But then there's Raven, so I don't know. Guess it depends on the character.
You know what? I bet you it is the reason why I have this perception, just to fix like my bias here, is because their presence or their notoriety as doing something else is so big. When you go to watch the movie, you're just thinking like, "Oh, that's Hilary Duff doing a thing."
Yeah.
You're not thinking about like that character, whoever that is.
Well, I mean, how long was it? Like, I mean, The Rock's been acting for a long time. For the longest while, it was just The Rock, and now it's like, okay, it's Dwayne Johnson. Like, you can kind of separate his characters a bit.
Yeah, didn't he stop being The Rock? Probably. Oh yeah. It was after yeah, that's it. That's it. Yeah, didn't he kind of started like transitioning to being Dwayne Johnson around Walking Tall, probably
Yeah.
like after he co-starred in that movie with Sean Connery and Nicolas Cage.
Hmm. Which one was that?
He was the prison.
Oh, thank you. I'm good. I'm good. You know, all I was thinking is like, I could think of that. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Right, but that's the thing. He started transitioning. Like, I think Hulk Hogan would be a better example of the thing you're talking about, with like the music star going to that.
Yeah, he's
No
always
matter
just the
what
Hulk
movie he's in,
Hogan.
he's just the Hulk.
Or
Whereas,
something Hogan.
yeah, whereas The Rock has tried to move to acting and did, and you can see a big difference from Scorpion King in that one episode of Voyager he was in to what he's doing now.
Oh, speaking of The Rock, did you ever hear the theory that Sean Connery in The Rock was actually James Bond?
No, I did not.
Yeah, so like the thought is, let me read it for you real quick.
Mm-hmm.
It's been around for a while. It comes down to, so some theorists believe Michael Bay's 1996 blockbuster The Rock is actually Sean Connery's final and very appropriately for 007 covert James Bond film. How he acts, how his mannerisms are, his abilities, the fact that Hummel, the antagonist in the film, is very James Bond villain-esque.
Mm,
So like the actual The Rock is in the same vein as terrible but awesome movies. We're
yeah.
talking Fifth Element, Face Off, The Rock. Um, so it's just interesting. It gives it a new quality, a new twinge to think it's like, is that actually James Bond?
I like this. I could get down with this theory.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
one of the other theories I really like, and I always say is the Darth Jar Jar theory.
Oh, I love the Darth Jar Jar theory. It just saves so much.
Just all of a sudden makes sense. And in that one, like apparently Lou, yeah, I think it was Lucas. They had an original plan,
Yeah.
but halfway or close to the ending of the second film, they completely changed what they were gonna do.
I heard that some of it was because like he was very defensive of Jar Jar,
Yeah,
but the fans just never took to him, so he had to backpedal.
yeah.
Is what I think it is. Because like really, it is Jar Jar's fault that the Empire exists.
Well, as it is, like the level of manipulating him and taking advantage of him. I find it hard to assign blame when it's a literal Sith Lord that's manipulating you into doing something.
Yeah, but if he was the Sith Lord actually doing the manipulation,
It would have been so much better.
so much better.
Uh,
um,
oh, so back to Sicario too. Day of the Soldado. Yeah, I think overall I quite enjoyed the film. I think it was a sequel.
Yeah.
I was very impressed with our young actress, Isabella.
Yes.
I thought she did a fantastic job. Like she showed multiple emotions that were distinct from each other and believable. And there's a credit to the writing there because at least the writing of her character was believable as well.
Yeah. Well, that was one thing. I'm pretty sure it's the writer. The writer stayed the same.
Taylor
Yeah, the
Sheridan,
writer stayed the same. Yeah.
I think, is like on the like the shot choices on the music side and all that. It followed suit. It's just there was structural issues.
Um, yeah, like the shots were fantastic. They were always held. They were held like they needed to be. Like in some cases, just that little bit too long to make it uncomfortable.
Hmm.
Which is one of the things that again worked very well in the first one. So they kept a lot of those things. I think it had the downside of not having that thing happen in the background that snaps the focus out of the shot. Like
Hmm.
again, the amazing border scene. Honestly, one of the best scenes ever. The music they had, the music I felt it was very Sicario, but I don't think it fit this film as much.
Oh, that's a good. That's a good
I,
observation.
yeah, because like it's still it was that again that I think I talked about this when we saw the in Sicario itself, the tension and the almost horror sound
Hmm.
with the sound design that was here, but the film didn't have quite that same horror feel. I didn't feel the same sense of danger, which again just goes to that tension release. The sound design again though was amazing. I think praised again Sicario, and I'm going to praise this one for it too. The use of no sound. Let's have silence. Let that be the soundtrack, and they nailed the use of that again.
One thing that they could have shored up, what one of the powers of Sicario is how fast the violence occurs, how intense it is, and how fast it ends. I'm back to the infamous firefight scene with the trucks, the ambush scene. It went on for like minutes,
Yes,
whereas our car scene from the original, the setup to the violence is what took minutes.
yeah, it
And
was over in like 10 seconds.
yeah, less.
Yeah, just to circle it all the way back to what I originally said when I was responding to your question of the film. That's exactly why I have to say it came very close to crossing that line of what we feared, that this would just turn into an action film. And it didn't quite, but only just quite.
Yeah, it tried.
Yeah, it was.
Well,
It would not have taken much for it to jump that line and take me out of the film.
I mentioned before that this is definitely like a stereotypical sequel, and one of the primary reasons of it is why the ending is doesn't sit right. It's because the ending is a lead up for the third. It doesn't self-contain this film itself. It requires that third part for it to feel whole.
I mean, honestly, if they have a plan for him not being dead or anything like that,
Mm-hmm.
which clearly they did, and you're doing a third film, have that just come up in the third film. I would deal well enough with the flashback, or with Matt saving the girl. There's no reason to think that okay, he didn't have some plan to have someone go and check on him or something. I could headcanon that easily enough.
Yeah.
And just have him be there. But I think, ending it with Alejandro being shot would have been fine. Leave everything else up in the air. I am good with that.
I am glad it wasn't a case of the switcheroo, though.
Yes.
I'm glad it was actually Alejandro that got shot. I think it would have suited the atmosphere of the film if he actually died.
Yes. I'm not mad, I'm just disappointed. Yeah, that is honestly the biggest thing. I had to suspend my disbelief a little bit further in this film, but again, not to any ground shattering levels.
Mm-hmm.
And again, most of the reason I had to do this type of suspension of disbelief, why I'm even noting it, is because again, Sicario was that good. The chances of them coming out and being exactly as strong as that is very low.
Well, that's the
because
thing.
it was such a strong film.
like trying to put myself in your position. I think you and I enjoyed this film to a similar degree.
Yeah.
But you enjoyed the original Sicario far more than I did, and quite enjoyed the first.
Yeah.
So that drop off is a whole lot more stark than mine.
Mhm. Yeah, that's fair. I also know, you forget things, so you probably just forgot how the first Sicario went. So you can watch it all brand new again.
What do I remember? I remember bodies in the walls. I remember
Yeah.
a rooftop scene at dusk.
Yeah.
I remember a cave scene at the end.
Yep.
And like the final motel thing.
Yeah. It's the thing, it's the emotions of it. That first film does the emotions. And really, that's always more important than the set pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And when you tie a set piece and emotions together, chef's kiss.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like the tone is the big shift, right? So the first one, again, closer to a thriller, IMO.
Mhm.
This one, closer to an action drama. And the very different tones, but then you put in the same music and similar tenseness and similar set pieces, and it feels odd, feels off.
Yeah. This one, so the first one was a horror, like, again, almost psychological horror
Yeah.
thriller. Like, it leaned very heavily into that. This one here felt more like it would be tied to like Black Hawk Down or Three Kings, like more of that war movie type.
Yeah, yeah.
That's still like the ones that are very clearly war movies, but aren't leaning completely into the Rambo action
Mm.
style. That's very much what this one felt like, and it's just different enough, but didn't cross the line. So
Hmm.
I think about 16 of the 20 managed to get across the border.
Wait, were you doing a calculator there?
I was.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.